Yeah, welcome to Startup Growth Program. This is powered by Startup Launch Code. It's a program designed to help startups get the right knowledge to scale their business irrespective of the stage of the startup. So today on the program, we're looking at a very interesting topic, which is understanding product adoption and how to improve your product adoption rate. Anchoring this particular this course is not other person but myself. Dawood Kennedy, a growth specialist with Startup Launch Code. So, what are we going to be learning at the course of this program? So, we'll be learning what is meant by product adoption, why you should be concerned about product adoption as a startup founder. We'll also be looking at different product adoption stages, how to measure product adoption for your startups, and out are the ways you can improve product adoption for your startup, and so much more you'll be learning at the course of this course. So let's get into it. It's going to be an exciting time. So yeah, take a bottle of water and let's get into it. So, what is product adoption? Now, before I go into defining what production adoption is, as a founder, one thing that is always the top of the mind for every founder is to get people to use your product or to adopt your product, because no business can survive without people willing to use and pay for your product. So it is important for every founder to be concerned about how they get people to actually adopt and use and hopefully pay for whatever product or service they are rendering. So let's get into the definition of product adoption. So product adoption, as you can see here, is the process by which a product or service is accepted and used by customers. So when you talk about product adoption, you have this amazing product, and people are all or service, people are ready to accept and use your product. That is when you can say, okay, people have actually accepted your product. And he said it involves the customer's decision making process from initial awareness of the product to eventually purchase or use. So when it comes to product adoption, there is series of stages the customer needs to go through before eventually using or even paying for your product or service. So there is we'll be looking at those process at the course of this program. So people don't just wake up and start using the product. They need to be aware of the product. There are certain things that they need to go through before deciding to actually want to use or pay for your product. So when you talk about product adoption, it's just that process that people are willing to accept and use your product and eventually pay for that either product or service that you render. So the next thing we'll be looking at is as a founder or as a business owner, why should you be concerned about product adoption? Why should you be concerned that people should adopt your product? You can see, he said, if a company has a high product adoption rate, it simply means that for more individuals are adopting and using the product. So let's say for instance you run a financial institution, that a fintech, and your marketing guys run a campaign for people to either download your application or sign up on your platform. Now if you get people to download the application, and the download, the sign up, and they start using this your product for day to day financial transaction, it simply means you are making more simply means you are making more money off the initial advertisement investment. So it simply means the more people who are willing to use your product, the more revenue you generate for your company. So that So in a nutshell, it simply means that higher adoption is absolutely necessary for higher revenue. See, the more people adopt, use, and pay for your product, the more revenue that generates for the business. As you know, there is no business without customers. So having a higher adoption rate is critical to the survival of every startup. So Now, now that we understand what product adoption is and why you should be concerned about product adoption as a founder. Now, what are the different stages of product adoption? Product awareness. Yes, like I stated earlier, people do just wake up and start using your product. There's different stages they need to go through before they eventually start using your product. So the first stage of product awareness, the first stage of product adoption is what we call the product awareness. So when you talk about the product awareness, this is the first stage of every product adoption. Here prospects come across your product either different channels or medium. It might be through online advertisement, it might be through friends and family, but this is the first stage of any kind of product. They need to be aware that, oh, this product actually exists. Being product aware is now what will lead to the second stage of the product adoption stage, which is the product interest. Now, people cannot be interested in the product if they don't even know the product exists. That's why at the first stage of every startup, of every product, is try to create what we call product awareness. Try to get as many people to know about your product as possible, because if they don't know that your product exists, there is no way they can have interest into trying out your product. So you need to spend you need to be bullish about product awareness, so you get more people. The more people know about your product, the better for you as a startup or as a brand. So when we talk about the product interest stage, says this is the stage where consumer get to know about your product, then try to find out more information about it. The first stage is, oh, they are aware of your product. So the second stage for me, oh, I now know this product, what can this product do? So that's where they now go in to find more information about the product, do research, search, ask more, ask questions, check out your landing pages, check out your FAQ, check for reviews, and this is what now helps them to now move to the next stage of what we call the product evaluation stage. Now, this stage is where consumer now decide to either want to try out your product or not. Now, the first thing, like I said, is awareness. They hear or they see your product, hear about it through different channels. Then the interest arose. Oh, what's this product? What can it do for me? After they've done their research, ask friends and check reviews on online, check your landing page, check your FAQs to know what actually the product can do for them. The next thing is now for them to evaluate, oh, this product, is it worth trying out or not? If it's not trying if it's not worth trying out, then you lose them at this point. But if they now decide to try it out, they now move to the next stage of the product adoption, where we know that is known as the product trial. Now, this is a very critical stage of the product adoption stage. At this stage, the prospect try to play safe, either trying to like sign up and try. If you have a free trial of the product, this is where you get people try out the free version of your product. If it's, let's say, you own a restaurant, for example, people walk into your restaurant to try the least expensive menu on your product, to see, okay, is this product worth the hype, or what the news they've read about it. So you need to be very what I say, you need to be very good when it comes to giving trials for your product, because this is the first experience the prospect is having with your product. So, and they said first impression last. So you need to like give them the best service when people are trying out your product. You need, if it is a software as a service, make sure that you give them the best onboarding experience, the best user experience, so that after the trial stage, which they now move into the product adoption stage. So whatever the experience during the product trial stage will now um, be a deciding factor to either they want to adopt your product or they want to reject your product. So during the product trial stage, you need to give your prospect the very good user experience, so that it can help them take an informed decision either to adopt your product or they reject your product. So after the product trial stage, the next stage, like I said earlier, is the product adoption stage. So it is the trial stage that helps them take the decision either to move on with your product or to let your product go. So let me give you a very good example. Let's say you want to start a restaurant business, as an example. Let's call the restaurant XYZ restaurant. Now probably you run an ad on YouTube, and while your prospect or your target audience is watching a YouTube video, they stumbled upon your video ad. Now that is the awareness stage. They've seen the advert of your restaurant. They've now been aware of your product. Now the next thing they want to do, because they are not aware of XYZ restaurant, they go on to Google, search for XYZ restaurant, read about the reviews, ask friends and family who might have tried out your restaurant. Now because they've been aware through seeing your advert, they've done their bit of research, trying to know more about your restaurant. Now the next thing is, oh, they want to try out your restaurant. Probably they walk into your restaurant or the order for one of your menus online. You can see that is the trial stage, because they are not sure of how your product or your service is going to satisfy their need. So they want to be careful at this point. So they order for the least expensive menu on your price on your menu list. Now after they've tried out the menu, and oh, they are satisfied with what they've seen or what they've tasted, now the next thing for them, they now become a buying customer from your restaurant. So it is important for startups to understand each stages of the product adoption, because the way you service each of your prospects through these stages really differs. The kind of messaging you do during the awareness stage is different from the kind of message you do during the interest, the evaluation, the trial, and the adoption phase. So it's important for founders and everybody involved in the startup to understand these different stages of product adoption. And now that we understand the different stages of product adoption, the next thing for us to know, okay, how do you measure product adoption for your startup? Now, what you don't measure, there is no way you can improve, because we are still going to look at how to improve product adoption rate for our startup. So if you don't measure how you are doing with your product adoption, there is no way you will be able to know if you are doing well or not. And without that, you can't even know if you need to improve on it or not. So let's look at how to measure product adoption for our product. So now, for us to measure our product adoption, there are certain metrics we need to look out for when we try to measure our product adoption. Now, the first one of the most important metrics is the product adoption rate. So it is the percentage of new users to all users, whether it is for a product or a specific feature. So it has very simple, what's it called? Simple formula, which is the number of new users times 100 divided by the total number of users. So let's say, for example, you have an existing user of um you have an existing user of 752, and in a month you added a new user of 64 in number. So for you to calculate your product adoption rate, you just multiply the number of new users, that is 64, by 100, then you divide it by the total number of existing user, which is 572, and you have an adoption rate of 11.18%. So you can always calculate your adoption rate either daily, monthly, weekly, or yearly. So it is important to always know how you are doing with adoption, if you are doing well or if you are not. So this product adoption rate will help you to know how you are doing with your adoption strategies. So the next important matrix is time to first key action. So for every product, especially software as a product, software as a service product, there is always this key action that you consider to be important for your business. Let's say, for example, you run a financial institution. I don't know why I always like using fintech as an example. So let's say you run a fintech startup as an example. What you can consider to be your key action is probably when a user completes their KYC, or if a user makes their first what was it called, their first deposit on the platform. So that is the key action. So the time it takes for a new user to perform that key action on your application or on your website is what is termed as the time to key action. So this metrics is important for you to know how quickly people are understanding your application. So if it's taking a longer time for people to do that key action, that means there is room for you to improve. So you need to be very concerned about the time it takes for users to perform that key action on your application, because that can make or mar their adoption of the product. Let's say, for example, it's taking me like 1 hour to complete my KYC. Most people don't have that time, so you need to look for a way to beat down that time so that it increase the level of adoption of your product. So you need to always look for a way to improve the first time to take key action on your application, so that it can help you increase your product adoption rates. Then the next important metric you need to watch out for is percentage of user who perform the core action for the first time. Now you shouldn't mistake these two metrics. Said this is time taking to perform key action, while this is the percentage of those who performed that action. So it's two different things. This is measuring the time, and this is measuring the percentage of people who performs that action for the first time. Said the percentage of users who perform the core action for the first time is a metric that measures the success of a product or service. So if it's taking more people to perform that core action, that means yes, there is every tendency that you have a very good adoption rate. But if less people are performing that core action, then that means you need to work on, first check on the time it takes for them to work to perform that action. Then if the time is good enough, that probably is short, you're expecting more people to perform the action, that means there's something wrong with your application, or there's something wrong with the user experience of that application. So these three metrics are very very important for product adoption. So let me just take a rewind. So the first important metric is the product adoption rate, which is the percentage of new user who uh, um, which is the percentage of new user to all existing users. Then the second important metric is the time to first key action, which is the time it takes for new users to perform the key action in your product, or a time it takes for existing user to use and a new future. So you need to understand, you need to take note of that metric as well. Then the last metric is percentage of users who perform the core action for the first time. So those are the three core metrics you need to look out for if you are looking to improve your product's adoption rate. So now that we understand these metrics, now it's now time for us to know, okay, how can we improve our product adoption rate. So let's look at the different ways we can improve product adoption for our startup. So what are the ways we can improve product adoption? Number one, make the product easy to use. Now, it is important for your product to be easy for your users to use. If a product becomes difficult to use, people will not want to use that product except their life depends on it though. So make sure your product is intuitive and easy to use. If user can't figure out how to use it, they won't stick around. So you need to make your product as easy as possible. You should make it in such a way that people will rely on either contacting the customer service or trying to find out how to use it. So you need to make it as easy as possible. Make it self-indulgent. Make it as seamless as possible so that people can stick around. When things get difficult for people, especially if their life don't depend on it, they tend not to want to continue. So make sure your product is easy and seamless for users to use. Number two is if possible offer a free trial. Now, offering a free trial is a great way to get people to try out your product. It gives them a chance to see if it's something they would like to use without having to commit to a purchase. So this is very useful for software as a service product. Now, giving free trial makes encourage people to want to try out your product because they know they have nothing to lose. So you are not asking for them to make a purchase. So if it is encouraged, if it's possible, get people to use the free version of your product so they get the feel, they enjoy the value of your product for a while. And once they see that, oh, this product can actually solve my problem, they will always be willing to work to upgrade and start paying to use your product. So another way you can improve your product adoption is to improve your user onboarding experience. Now, according to research carried out by TechCrunch, said 1 in 4 mobile apps is abandoned after the first launch, while another research by Andrew Chen shows that 77% of users drop an app just 72 hours after download. So it simply means, and this is tied to a very poor onboarding experience. So you need to ensure that your onboarding experience is very smooth. Get users to onboard properly. If users are unable to understand your product interface, if they are bombarded with too many features and process, and you get them confused, they don't even know where to begin, they tend to like abandon your product or your application. So you need to make your user onboarding experience as smooth as possible. Don't bombard them with too much tasks at the same time. Take it easy on them, make it seamless as possible. You can even gamify the onboarding process so that it keeps them engaged till they do that key action they need to do on your application. So another way you can improve your product adoption is to improve customer support. Yes, now it is saying that the level of customer support can directly impact your product adoption rate. This is especially true for software as a service product where users might have one or two questions to ask. Now you need to improve the customer support. You should be able to respond to your customers problem and inquiry in a very short time, because the longer they wait for your response, the more they are discouraged to want to continue with your product. So you need to improve your customer support if you really want to improve your product adoption rates. Then the next way is to continuously engage your users. Yes, many startups do the mistake of abandoning their user after they've actually onboard such users. So it is a very, very great mistake if you abandon your users after you feel they've done your first key action. Probably they've onboarded successfully, you now leave them to themselves. Now you need to continually engage users even after they've onboarded your platform. You need to keep the communication and engagement going. You need to always reach out to them. You need to always keep them informed. You need to always show them that yes, you are still with them. So one good way to do this is increase the level of communication either via email or in-app messages. So you need to always be in communication with your user even after they've successfully onboarded on your product. So this way they know, okay, they stick to your product, they keep using your product because they know you are still on their mind. So if you follow these five ways, it is guaranteed that yet you are going to see a significant increase in your product adoption rate. So yeah, so that is wrap for today. So let's just do a very quick recap of what we discussed. So we discussed about product adoption now, which is the process by which your product or services is accepted by users and they are willing to use and pay for your product. We also looked at the product adoption stages, which we discussed to be the product awareness stage and the product interest stage, the product trial, the product adoption, as well as the product evaluation stage. So these five stages is important for you to understand as a founder, because like I said, the way you communicate with users across these stages really really matter as well. Then we went on to look at the important metrics to look out for when you are trying to measure your product adoption. And we talked about the product the adoption rate, which is the percentage of new users to all existing users. We also looked at the time to first key action, which is the time every time it takes for new user to use your product or to use to perform a specific action. We also look at the percentage of users who perform core action for the first time. Then we went on to discuss ways we can improve our product adoption by making our product easy to use, by trying to offer free trials, by improving the onboarding experience, also improving customer support, as well as continuously to engage with our existing users. I hope you're able to pick one or two lessons from this course. Yeah, you can check out Startup Launch Code on all our social media handles. Follow us on Twitter, on LinkedIn, as well as sign and check out our website on www.startuplaunchcode.co. So till we meet on another episode, to have a lovely day. Ciao.